And that, party people, is why I worship at the altar of the great Lord God King, Aaron fucking Sorkin. He has a knack for taking subjects I could give fuck number one about and making me give a fuck about it. First time this happened was during sports night, where he took mountain climbing, an utterly boring fucking subject, and made me give a damn about it. And now, same thing here. I don't care about Steve Jobs. Couldn't give a fuck about Apple, but I love this movie. One of the first things I noticed, the casting of his young daughter, 5-year-old. How they were able to find a girl who's able to keep up with Sorkinisms and the cadence of Sorkin's speech was utterly beyond me, but they were able to find her. I believe her name was Mackenzie Moss. She did an amazing job on this movie. Michael Fassbender, I believed, as Steve Jobs. Oh, and he also did another thing that he did in Moneyball, which is take a previously known comedic actor known for goofball stuff and give them some good stuff to work with. In this case, it was Seth Rogen as opposed to Jonah Hill in Moneyball. Jonah Hill in Moneyball, I loved his performance in Moneyball. It made me believe that Jonah Hill could do more dramatic things. The speeches that Seth Rogen gave in this movie to Steve Jobs, standing up to him, wanting the Apple II team acknowledged in all of his speeches, were amazing. Like, it showed me the mature side of Seth Rogen. I was one of the things I was wondering about. I was wondering if I was going to be too caught up in the fact that it was, not wondering, but because I kind of knew going in with the history of what he did with Jonah Hill that I probably wouldn't, and I didn't. I wasn't caught up in the fact that it was Seth Rogen. It was just a man standing there giving this amazing speech, and I loved it. Kate Winslet got lost in her role. Forgot it was even Kate Winslet. It was almost entirely taking place during 3 separate launches of 3 different systems that Steve Jobs was involved in. I say almost entirely because they do flashback occasionally to different instances, him meeting with the former CEO of Pepsi to get him on board as the CEO of Apple. The garage where he and Wozniak developed the Apple computers. They go into not a whole lot of computer jargon. There's some, but you're able to keep up with it. Here's what I think. Can you see me? Can't see me. There you go. There you go. I believe, I'm trying to leave this fucking parking garage at the same time. I believe that the thought process behind keeping this thing sort of enclosed in the launches of these systems were something that very much pleased Aaron Sorkin because he comes from a theater background. He loves theater, and it plays like a play. Like, I could see this being converted into a play. So it starts with the 84 launch after the big Super Bowl commercial that they did that made no sense to absolutely anybody. Him trying to get people to the computer to say hello and him threatening people. The way Aaron Sorkin played this role, or wrote this role, was different than the way he writes other roles similar to this. He has a knack for writing guys who are narcissists, who are almost complete assholes, but have something endearing. Not knowing much about Steve Jobs, and if you go into this not knowing anything about Steve Jobs, you'll find nothing appealing about the man. Especially if you're not an Apple fan, like I'm not. I'm not an Apple dude, and I believe it's kind of a cult. So, sorry, all you people who are watching on fucking Apples. Watching this, not knowing much about Steve Jobs, you would think that there's almost nothing redeemable about the man. You really would. That's different than other Sorkin roles that he's written like this, where you will usually find something endearing about the person, some reason to cheer them. There really wasn't a reason to cheer Steve Jobs in this entire movie. It stops before he dies of cancer. The final scene is Steve Jobs on stage as he's about to unveil the iMacs that debuted in like 98, 99. The big, bulky looking, jelly bean looking motherfucker things. Yeah, those things. The driving force behind the movie is not really about Steve Jobs. It's more or less about Steve Jobs and the relationship with his estranged daughter and how he comes to terms with, A, the fact that she is his daughter, and 2, an underlying current of him being adopted and having to deal with the mixed emotions about that. But it's really more about him and his relationship with his daughter and him trying to, well, not even him necessarily trying to, the other people around him telling him he needs to be a father to this girl. And he needs to do the quote-unquote responsible thing, and he needs to do the quote-unquote right things by her. So yeah, in the course, can you see me? No. Okay. In the course of this movie, that's basically what they're trying to do. It's a bunch of people trying to tell Steve Jobs, stop being an asshole to your daughter. And in the first section of the movie, he's like, that's not my daughter. And they're like, stop being an asshole to your daughter. That's definitely your daughter. And he's like, that's not really my daughter. Well, those situations are more complicated than this movie tries to make it out to be, but eventually he figures out, eventually he does become a part of her life, but he's still kind of drug into it. Like, he still doesn't really want to do it. And the movie kind of demonizes him a bit for that. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do this and drive at the same time while not turning the damn video off. And it's hard to explain in a 90-minute movie, but those kinds of circumstances are more complicated than just that. You know what I mean? The whole process of being a father or fathering a child that you may not have wanted is a lot more complicated than just kind of how they spell it out in the movie. But the crux of it is supposed to be at the end, I guess he's kind of redeems himself, or is supposed to redeem himself, because an underlying theme in the movie that you notice but don't really notice until it's more prominently pointed out is that his daughter has a Walkman with her in the last two big press conferences where he releases computers. And he's talking, and eventually, at some point, his assistant tells him that he needs to try to connect with her by finding something that she likes and talking to her about it, and they end up talking about this Joan Baez song, and I guess that's supposed to stick with him through the next release, in which he sees her with a Walkman yet again, and this time he tells her he's going to put somewhere between 500 and 1,000 songs in her pocket. That's supposed to be the kind of precursor to the iPod. Yeah, that thing. And and that's supposed to kind of be his way of redeeming. That was kind of weak. I didn't see that as kind of a redeeming moment, but and he gives this long kind of loving stare at her from the stage, and she's watching from just off stage, and he had printed out this painting that she did on the original Macintosh that she had long since forgot about at 5 years old, but I guess he printed out and kept, and that's supposed to be sentimental to him and to her and all this other stuff. I felt like that point was a little weak. I felt almost like the movie needed to end because the movie needed to end. And they spent so much time dealing with him and his daughter and the way he pissed off a lot of people on his way to getting back in control of Apple, that there's probably a whole second half of his life up until his death that they completely and totally missed out on, and decided we just have to fucking end this movie, so it has to end here. And or Aaron Sorkin felt like that was a more interesting story to tell. I felt like it kind of ended weaker than the entire run of the movie. So the whole sum of the parts of the movie, excellent. I give it, what did I give it? I forgot what I give it, but go fucking see this movie. I'd give it 14 out of 15 of my dollars because the ending was slightly weak. But because of the strong writing, because of the strong dialogue writing of Aaron Sorkin, it hit the notes that it was supposed to hit, and some notes that you didn't think it was going to hit very, very well. It showed the strong relationship he had with his assistant, played by Kate Winslet, very well. It showed a different side, possibly, of a relationship between him and Steve Wozniak than people possibly knew. Jeff Daniels, amazing, from the fucking Newsroom. Amazing work, amazing actor. All the acting in this was amazing. And they hit the dialogue, even the 5-year-old little, I think her name was Mackenzie Moss. And I'm going to remember her name partially because it's similar to, it caught me because it looked like Elizabeth Moss from The West Wing, but also because she was able to keep up with the Sorkin pace and the dialogue very well. And that's amazing to me. That's impressive. Overall, amazing movie. You should go see this movie, I think. It's an early release right now in very select theaters. Like, I had to drive 40 minutes to go fucking see it because it wasn't even playing in Long Beach. So when it does hit you, go catch it. Party people, tell me what if you're still interested in going to see Steve Jobs. If you saw the other Steve Jobs movie with Ashton, how the fuck he still has a career is beyond me, Kutcher. And tell me if you're interested in seeing it. Let's see a hot chicken pink over there. Tell me if you're interested in seeing it or not. Tell me if this review changes your mind about whether you were going to go see it or not. If you're a Sorkin fan, if you worship at the altar of Lord King God Sorkin, you should go see this because it hits there are some Sorkin-isms in there. The walk and talk was amazing. Many walk and talks. There are a few lines that if you know anything about Sorkin dialogue, you'll recognize almost instantly as him using them again. But they were newer than before. There are some Sorkin lines that he used from early West Wing seasons and even Sports Night that I heard in Social Network, you know, that weren't here. Like, these were newer Sorkin lines. I think if you don't have the strongest attention span, and there are some people I know who don't have the strongest attention spans, I won't blow them up, but I'll just say they might have a huge tattoo of a spider on their back. And they might have been known as Spider Jesus at one time. It might be known as Trapzilla now. Kyle. Doesn't have the strongest attention span. This will keep his attention, I think. And a lot of it's just dialogue. It's just back and forth dialogue with not a whole lot going on. There's one walk and talk scene that I think was a parody of walk and talk scenes, where Steve Jobs has flowers, trades him for another stack of flowers, and then throws a stack of flowers away because it's fucking useless. Oh, you should be paying attention to the fucking dialogue, and you are paying attention to the dialogue. It's very well done. People there were laughing at all the parts they were supposed to be laughing at, intrigued at. It's just dialogue. It's just people talking, and it's fucking entertaining. All right? Go see this movie. 14 out of 15 of my dollars. Like I said before. Tell me what you think about it. One-handed in the car, down there in the comments section. Like, share, subscribe to this. Go to youtube.com/Shereel469. Over right hand side, little blue button that says support. You'll be supporting, and that ain't bad. I can't do the things now because I'm driving, but hit it, okay, hit it again, okay, and peace.
Suplex City, Suplex City, bitch. Suplex City, Suplex City, bitch. Suplex City, Suplex City, bitch. Suplex City, Suplex City, bitch.